Welcome back to Gay Fat Friend and Friends, the podcast for tortured poets. Happy new Taylor in the world, everyone, to all those that observe and celebrate. How's everyone enjoying the new album? I, for one, am obsessed with it. I think it's so good. There's no clear hits. It's clearly a concept album, and it flows kind of just as one book of poetry set to music. But I definitely love it. I definitely think it's for the fans, and I am a fan, so we're good to go. It's a Swiftie lovers album. I am definitely in the tortured poets department. I feel very much a happy member of that department, and I'm excited to see what else comes from this album and what other surprises Mother Swift is going to drop on us. My highlights so far are clearly the first song with Post Malone. I really love that song, Fortnite. And my favorite song on the album so far is But Daddy, I Love Him. And I think, I'm calling it right now, my prediction right now is that will probably be the next single and video, I think. Over I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. Although a lot of people are saying that's probably going to be the next single. Because it's the most poppy, I think, of every song on the album. It's the poppiest one. But this is not like a pop music, dancey, fun Taylor Swift album. I'm very curious if she ever tours this album, how she would tour it, because I don't think you could sit through, even though it is over 2 hours of music. So with staging and stuff, she could easily make it a 3-hour show. I don't know how you could do 3 hours of that music in a stadium. This is a theater album show. This is a small venue, a club show. I don't think you could play this album out in a stadium. I just don't think it would work for me personally. Like we've been watching all the Coachella streams. We watched them last weekend, and then this weekend they're replaying them. And I watched the Lana Del Rey headlining set, and I was just thinking, this music is so personal and slow and intimate, and I can't imagine standing in the middle of a hot field with thousands of people for 2 hours listening to that kind of music. It doesn't work for me, but good on you if you enjoy that. But I almost felt embarrassed or even awkward watching that Lana set. It just felt so, I don't know. It just felt so kind of not appropriate for that setting, if that makes any sense. Also, Lana is kind of hard to watch live as it is, but that's a whole nother story. Anyway, back to Tortured Poets. I'm very much obsessed. I think it's great. I love the secret 2 a.m. drop of a double album. I love how I am a Swiftie. I am not a clown, so I don't really participate in the investigative journalism of being a Swiftie and figuring everything out. But I did love how the clowns did figure out a lot of stuff and find a lot of clues. And I have a feeling a lot of time with Swiftie clowns that they're finding things that just happen to also exist. If you're not familiar, there are different levels of fandom of Taylor Swift. Big fans, people that love her, are called Swifties. But then the deepest fan of a Swiftie is called a clown. And they're the people that look for clues in every single thing she does. They watch her hands. They watch her jewelry. They watch the color of the clothes she's wearing. I mean, when these Swiftie clowns get clowning, it takes fandom to a whole nother level. But it is kind of fun. It's all in jest. It's all in fun. But some people do take it a little seriously, and some people do take it a little too far, and it's a little awkward. But you know what? To each their own. That's pretty much the price of entry when you're becoming a fan of Taylor Swift. But yeah, I did enjoy all the clowning and all the little clues and teases and releases that she did leading up to the album. I think it's really interesting that she didn't release any singles, and now Billie Eilish is also not releasing any singles for her album in May. So it's all the music industry is all changing, and everybody's doing concepts and everybody's thinking things through further than just releasing music. I mean, same with Cowboy Carter. Very much a high concept, well thought out album. We're getting a lot of good music this year, folks. It's really exciting. So all that to say, happy Taylor Swift weekend. I hope you guys had a great record store day and a great 420 and are just living in the moment and enjoying Taylor's existence. The other thing I wanted to talk about today is that Rob and I have been watching a lot of movies lately, and I just feel like we need to bring back the phrase direct to DVD. Now, for the youngins out there, if you're not familiar, back in the day before streaming, there were 2 ways to see movies. One was in a theater and the other was on home video. It started with VHS Then it moved on to DVD and then Blu-rays. But those were your options for seeing movies. I guess, late night TV, but those movies don't really count. So back in the day, you could only see movies in theaters and on home DVD. Well, there came a time I would say it kind of started in the late 90s, early 2000s, where movies were skipping the theater and just going direct to DVD. And it was definitely a quality aesthetic. You could tell when a movie was direct to DVD. It was always just the camera quality was a little lower, the sound was a little lower, the acting, the lighting, the writing, everything. You could just direct to DVD told you point blank what kind of movie you were about to enjoy. Well, then streaming started, and now we're in the age where giant big budget movies are skipping theaters altogether and going straight to streaming. So you can't really say like, oh, this movie was direct to streaming, it's probably not going to be good, because huge blockbusters have been direct to streaming and they've been really good. So after watching Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal and Immaculate with Sydney Sweeney, we need to bring back the phrase direct to DVD just to tell people when a movie is not going to be great. Both of those movies, Immaculate was cute. Like I would maybe watch it again in like spoopy season in like October. Roadhouse was just weird. I didn't understand any of the choices that anyone amongst the production made. The storyline was weird. The acting was crazy. The UFC tie-in was odd. Like, I feel like Jake Gyllenhaal was probably having some kind of midlife crisis, and he was like, you know what? I need to get buff, and I need people to know that I'm a man. I need everybody to know that I'm a man, and I go to the gym and I'm buff, which is weird because he's such a sensitive man. And I feel like he always does like really thought out, or, traditionally really well thought out acting roles. And this just seemed so aggressive and like out of nowhere for him. I don't know. But in it, he still acted like Jake Gyllenhaal. Like he didn't act super manly, if that makes sense. Like he was just kind of being Jake Gyllenhaal, but with this like really aggressive, muscly body, doing UFC hardcore fighting. The storyline made no sense. The location made no sense. It was all just, I don't know. It was just weird. It kind of feels like one of those movies where he wanted a vacation in the Florida Keys and he was like, how can I get somebody else to pay for it? Like they did with the Ocean's 11 movies. They're like, we want to take a group friend vacation. How can we get somebody else to pay for it and pay us at the same time? And then with Immaculate, I mean, it kind of, honestly, it looked like it could have been filmed on an iPhone. The writing was just odd. You kind of understood the story right away, and then it just happened, and I don't know. And add this to a long list of movies nowadays that just kind of all have this same aesthetic and feeling of like, oh, in 2005, this would have been called direct to DVD. And the thing about direct to DVD is when it started and when it was happening, you'd go to Blockbuster and you'd see 5 or 6 movies, even like 10, 12 movies with huge famous actors that you have never heard of this film. And you're like, why did it go direct to DVD? And then you watch it and you're like, oh, that's why, because that was a terrible story, or that was terrible quality, or they clearly ran out of money or had no budget to begin with, or it was a weird passion project by the actor in the lead. Like, direct to DVD tells you exactly what a movie's going to be. So I think we need to bring that back. And I'm just telling you right now, Jake Gyllenhaal's Roadhouse and Sydney Sweeney's Immaculate are direct to DVD movies. So get on board, everybody. Bring back direct to DVD. And having spoke my piece on that, I think it's time to bring out Little Robbie Man for our second segment. We've got so much more to talk about malls that we didn't talk about last week. So without further ado, welcome to the stage. It's Rob. Yay!
Hi.
Hi, babe.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good. I feel like I haven't seen you all morning.
True.
So, I've said it before, but just to remind you, I love my Sunday morning ritual is that I love to watch CBS Sunday Morning. It's like my favorite thing. I need those trumpets. To wake me up on a Sunday morning, and I just feel so good. But you don't really like that show, do you?
I don't care for a softball news program.
Yeah, a news magazine.
Like the Today Show is just hours of wasted platitudes and smiles. I don't know. I have a hard time. But also in the mornings, that's not my time.
You're
And
more
so-
of a quiet morning person.
Yeah, it's not so much a don't talk to me until I've had my coffee. It's more of just don't talk to me. I will be having coffee, but yeah, it doesn't really change the fact that like I don't know. Softball news doesn't really do it for me, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And like, but I realize it is very much a place of comfort for a lot of people, and I didn't grow up with it, so I don't have that sort of soft spot, and I'm not, I feel, of the age where it's speaking to me as a target audience yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of in a weird little bit of limbo. So Sunday is my time to be quiet and like look at TikTok and spend time on my phone, get some reading done.
We have a love sack, gigantic beanbag chair in Rob's office, so he just retreats into the office and nests up in the love sack.
And he doesn't understand that, like, I will sit in a dark room by myself with the curtains closed, and I just literally sit in a dark room by myself.
He caves up. I like to say he caves up.
Yeah. Although today I lost my spot. The dog was in the love sack. She claimed it first.
Yeah.
And while we can share the love sack in a very adorable little spoony situation,
Yeah, you do both fit in it.
I don't want to bother her.
Well, yeah, she was already in it and like rested.
She was there first, and
Yeah.
I don't want to upset her because if you crawl next to her and she leaves,
It's so depressing.
Like seriously, I've never felt such.
It's like a knife to the heart.
It's awful.
Well, and also our house, as far as we're concerned, every bed is a Ruby bed. Like
Every surface.
every surface is a Ruby surface.
Oh,
so
yeah.
she's allowed everywhere. She has what? Our main sofa. We have a old leather sofa in a corner that's all hers.
Which literally, before we brought her home, Todd set up like multiple pillows and a blanket to sort of create like a little bit of a divot for her on this black sofa that is literally, it's not even a love seat, it is a sofa.
It's a full sofa.
It's just when we don't really use that much. It's more of a coat rack or decorative.
Yeah.
And but yeah, like he literally just put a blanket and pillows on it for her. And as soon as she came home with us for the first time, she jumped up on that sofa and curled up on it, and that was it. And we were like,
so now it's Ruby's sofa.
Yeah, she gets it. Like, and we've just left it for her ever since.
We also have multiple floor dog beds for her that she sleeps in, and she uses everything.
Yeah, we have elevated cots for her. Well,
Yeah.
the dog bed, she's mostly turned into a toy chest.
Yeah.
She will lay across
It's
it.
her like main nest where she keeps her babies.
Yeah, she'll lay across it and enjoy a treat or chew on a baby or whatever. But like she doesn't really sleep in that bed so much.
Yeah.
But she will sleep everywhere else.
When we take her to people's houses for like dog sitting and stuff, when we travel, that's the bed we take, and then she will sleep in it then. But then she doesn't have all her babies, and she freaks out.
Seriously.
Because, yeah, Ruby does not destroy toys. She hoards toys, and she's obsessed with toys. Like, she plays toys nonstop. So,
Which, yeah, BarkBox has been both a wonderful blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because their toys are adorable.
BarkBox makes the best dog toys, hands down.
They're really funny.
So cute. And, like, they are destroyable. Like, they will usually stuff another toy inside of another toy, but Ruby doesn't destroy anything, so we never see those hidden inside toys.
Yeah, they also even make like a box for super chewers or like dogs that destroy toys, and we don't even get that box for her because she doesn't do it.
Yeah, no.
But
she
yeah,
doesn't
so like
need anything like that.
we just have an abundance of stuffed babies.
Yeah.
That dog
Ruby's
just
got
carries
so many
around
babies.
and takes on walks with her. Like she has a reputation around the neighborhood now as the dog that carries a toy in her mouth.
She's
the
so
time.
cute. I love that dog so much. She's just such a big
So I
part
can't
of our
stop
lives.
talking about her. I'm always like,
Yeah. But like we got a new bed, and she her kind of routine lately has been come wake us up, then go on a walk, eat breakfast, then she'll come back down, and we call our bed the big bed. So she'll do like an hour in the big bed, then she'll go upstairs and do like an hour in the office with Rob, and then like an hour sleeping on the guest bedroom bed. That's also her bed. And then she'll be on the sofa and the cot. She loves the cot because it's right in front of a heat vent.
Yeah,
And
if
like
the
it
heater-
heats above and below.
if the heater comes on, yeah, she has a couple of spots that are right in front of heat vents that she just goes and
She's so funny.
up on.
Ugh, I love that dog. Anyway, today on the pod, I wanted to do a part 2 of Mall Talk, talking about malls, because we didn't get through of everything we wanted to talk about last week. Mainly that we both have worked at malls in our lives.
Well, and it's funny, like, sorry, not to go backward, but it's funny. I'm seeing the agenda here on your computer, and I'm realizing, oh, you got to talk about so much stuff that some of it we did together, but I'm not going to get to give my opinion on it, which is a little weird.
Oh, we can talk about Roadhouse House and Immaculate.
I mean, I feel like we have to a little bit, but I don't know what you said, aside from, like, your headings here. I'm just kind of like, can you give me a quick...
Yeah, I said that we need to bring back the term direct to DVD, even though people don't use DVDs anymore. But that's the only way to describe these like weird B and C level movies that have terrible production quality.
Well, we had direct to streaming, like, and I
but
feel
that
like-
doesn't mean anything anymore because especially in the pandemic, blockbusters are being released, especially with Netflix.
Yeah.
Movies are being released direct to streaming, so you can't really say that when talking about quality anymore.
Although honestly, even like the Netflix direct-to-streaming movies haven't all been that great. Like I enjoyed Bird Box, I think probably more than any of their others.
I mean, all the Fincher movies.
Yeah, I feel like Fincher's lost his edge a little bit though. Like,
he's like only adapting books. It's kind of annoying, but
yeah, and so I don't know. But anyway, sorry. Like, but it's like just like Roadhouse. Like that was a movie that at least I was kind of led to believe it's like that it was supposed to be a theatrical release and it got pulled, I think due to a little bit of lack of confidence in the asset. It makes sense. It's a very, I mean, Roadhouse was a lean story when it came out the first time.
Yeah.
And honestly, like Roadhouse, I think has established itself as a cult classic. Like the fact that Kevin Smith, who is not involved in the production of Roadhouse at all, is known for giving a Roadhouse commentary track on the DVD now, I believe. Like
of the Patrick Swayze
yeah,
Roadhouse.
It's one of those things where it's like it's interesting to have somebody who has no skin in the game give commentary on a movie when it's kind of hit that level of cultural value. And so it's funny. I feel like the Doug Liman Roadhouse did not stand a chance at doing that. I love Doug Liman as a director. Like I mean, Go was one of those movies that like blew my mind when I was 16.
There's so many of his movies that I love.
Yeah, no, he does good, and even like seriously, when he does like a run-of-the-mill action movie like Born Identity, or even like his time loop movie Edge of Tomorrow was great. I like the stuff he does, and so I was really excited about Roadhouse because also like I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I find him to be effortlessly charming. Even in real life, I think he's a pretty cool dude, which I do realize you already talked about Taylor, so I'm sure there's a lot of people who have strong opinions about Jake Gyllenhaal. But in my couple of encounters of meeting him in person, he was always lovely, and he comes off as extremely smart and funny.
That's what I kind of said. I was like, he usually makes such good acting choices and picks good films and roles to be a part of. This felt kind of like a midlife crisis where he's like, I gotta get buff and be a man.
Well, I mean, it's funny. Part of me, I even said, like, we watched the movie, I was like, as an actor, I might be that person where I was like, hey, if I can do a movie where they put me under a strict diet and exercise regimen and I don't have to pay for any of this for a couple of months and I can get in killer shape and then just go live my life and like go do movies I want to do, but like I just happen to look amazing. Yeah, do it. So it wouldn't surprise me if this was an opportunity for like Jake to just kind of get in fighting shape, so to speak.
Yeah.
And
well, and that's like the entertainment industry's number one rule is like do what you want to do, but get somebody else to pay for it. So
yeah,
it's. I also mentioned the Ocean's 11 thing where like they just wanted to take fancy vacations, so they decided to write a movie that takes place in Europe,
and you get to cast your friends.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's like Grown Ups. Apparently, Grown Ups 2, I think, was like a location shoot.
Because it was in Hawaii.
Yeah, I think Grown Ups 2 was literally like a location shoot with friends.
Well, a funny side note on that, Maya Rudolph just said she was on Drew Barrymore, I think, and they brought up, I think it was 50 First Dates, but they brought up something and Maya was like, oh, every time I film a movie that takes place in Hawaii, it's always just Malibu. And she's like, I love Malibu, but I've been in so many movies about Hawaii and I've never actually filmed in Hawaii because we only film in Malibu. And Drew was like, well, we're just going to have to write a Hawaii buddy movie and film it in Hawaii then.
Right? I mean, that'd be fun. Was it like Immaculate, though? I actually didn't feel was like that. I felt Immaculate felt like a theatrical release. Like that movie actually did not feel like it was holding back to me.
Even at the beginning of the movie, we were like, is this filmed in 60 frames? Like it was weird.
There was something weird going on with its special effects. I think there was a lot of stuff that felt like it was kind of happening at a wrong frame rate. And like our TV has that shit disabled. So like for it to look like that is kind of strange. But like, I don't know. At least I felt like horror movies can often just, I think, be at a lower tier of goal. They're usually telling smaller stories.
Yeah.
And if anything in this movie, I didn't feel like it really was denying me anything. Roadhouse at least did feel a little bit like one of those. But like, and you know, this is just me being like, forgive me, quick soapbox rant. In order for us to bring back direct to DVD, we need physical sales again. Like, I will be that person. Of course, I'm staring at a wall of records here. I'm the physical media guy. I deserve a plaque or something.
We have our own personal Blockbuster in the office.
Well, it's like I've made a point to collect movies that I like because honestly, I don't necessarily trust streaming services or whatever to keep this. And also, I mean, the fact that we're in a world of revisions now that people can't get access to like the original Star Wars movies.
Yeah, when they're like taking out scenes or adding weird special effects.
And so there's a lot of like little stuff here and there that just kind of gets to me. But I do find that right now, at least, and poor Todd's heard me complain about this so many times. Like hearing like Target announce that they're going to start paring down their physical media. Best Buy getting rid of their physical media. Everyone's like, oh, well, it doesn't sell. It doesn't sell. You're not stocking it. if you can't stock it, people don't buy it. And then when people don't buy it, you say, well, we're not going to carry it because people don't buy it. Cool. You got less and less shit that people wanted.
Yeah.
So therefore, no one bought it. Then when people don't buy it, you're like, well, there's no market. So we're going to stop carrying it altogether. Now an entire market has been completely ignored. And I mean, we are seeing a lot more like independent little video labels like Arrow Video, and that's the one I can think of right now. But like
A24,
yeah,
Criterion.
no, yeah, like it's the niche home video stuff. But like Arrow is one from the UK, and like they're or like Shout Factory is doing a lot of movies that just never got DVD releases. They're finally just putting them out after like 30 years, or Blu-ray releases. And so like a lot of these like niche genre labels are great, but like you're paying $50 per movie.
Well, and I will say
sucks.
we have won the streaming versus physical war a couple times where things are not available to stream at all, our digital purchase only. So it's like, you know, you want to pay $30 to watch Drop Dead Gorgeous or something. Luckily, we own it, so we can watch it as many times as we want.
Yeah, and so I don't know, and like, and I get, you know, like, and even then, physical media is not perfect. We, you know, one of my favorite terrible, like spoof slapstick movies is Fatal Instinct. It's a mashup of Fatal Attraction, Basic Instinct, Sleeping with the Enemy, Cape Fear.
It's a Naked Gun movie, isn't it?
No,
Oh.
but it's a slapstick style comedy. But like it's actually directed by I think Carl Reiner, but like the main spine of that movie is a parody of the movie Double Indemnity. And it's great. It's a really dumb, stupid movie. But like, however, there are some pivotal jokes in that movie that are dependent on the Van Morrison song "Brown Eyed Girl." And apparently, for the initial Blu-ray release of it, they couldn't get the rights to that song, and so they had to do song replacements on the home video release. And that movie got panned. I mean, it wasn't a well-received movie in the first place, but the home video release was like, what a waste. And I bought it anyway because I wanted a high-definition copy of it. Turns out they actually did a revision of it where there's a second version of the Blu-ray pressing that got the song back in. And it's one of those things of like everyone kind of dismissed this release and no one even realized they quietly fixed it.
Well, and that was a big thing with Daria and Beavis and Butthead too, and like other things from the 90s where like the Real World, that's why we can't get Real World Seattle on a physical media or even streaming, is because they couldn't clear the music, and music was such a big part of all those shows.
Well, MTV had a really crazy deal going on. At least this is what I've been led to understand, is that like basically any music is cleared for use on an MTV show, which is wild.
I mean, Drag Race got Beyonce this year.
Yeah, which I mean, I think at least they're planning for syndication and kind of long life afterwards. But like in the 90s, when like, you know, True Life, I'm a Cheerleader was on, and they had like an introspective moment of them being sad, and they would play Massive Attack Teardrop. That song is in every MTV 30-minute docuseries from the late 90s. And of course, a lot of that shit will never get released on home video or even re-released on TV in I think the way that it is, just because it has so much music in it.
Yeah, they can't clear the music.
And so, that's why, like, you know, if you get Daria on DVD, it's still a great show, but it definitely doesn't have all of the sort of like 90s goodness going on because they can clear up most of the music.
Well, and that's why you get a royalty-free song such as the GayFatFriend and Friends podcast theme song.
Hey.
So then you can use that song forever.
Yeah.
Because nobody owns it.
But anywho, sorry. I just happened to see, like, you know, the whole thing, and I was like, Immaculate. We watched that last night. I loved it. I thought it was fun.
I said I would watch it again in spoopy season. Like, it's not really a horror movie, but it's kind of a Final Girl Scream franchise.
I mean, it's a psychological horror more than anything else. And I will say, I mean, just also, like, I don't know if you talked about it, the fact that it was under 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Applause for you. Like,
nobody wants these 3-hour movies anymore.
Seriously,
Stop it.
I mean, and we're watching shit at home where we can pause it, but still, like, I'm if you can't say it in 2 hours, you got a miniseries.
Yeah. But also don't break things that should be one movie into 2 movies. Wicked. You know.
Seriously,
The Hobbit. Stop it.
I understand that. Yeah, seriously, everyone wants a franchise now, and like after Lord of the Rings, you know, Warner was like, we need another franchise here. Yeah. But also, like, The Hobbit did not need to be 3 movies.
I mean, kind of way off topic, but I am so confused how Wicked is going to be 2 movies because, like, if it's based on a Broadway show and that show is a certain length, how are you going to make the movie different? Anyway, we don't have to get into
and also,
that
I'm
yet.
assuming it's a 3-act show like most Broadway shows, right?
Yeah, it's really long, but I mean, it's not over 3 hours. Might be over 3 hours with intermission, but
at least I don't know Wicked at all. Like, I know the one big song. Even then, I don't know the most of the song.
A lot of people.
I know the chorus of it.
I've never seen it, but a lot of people say like it leaves a lot of the book out. And I did read the book, and it was one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. Like,
really?
when I read the last page, I literally threw it across the room because It's really dense. It's a long book. It's like, I don't know, 400 or 500 pages. It's long. And I just hated the story. I hated it. Anyway, we'll talk about Wicked this December when Wicked comes out.
Yeah, I'm very curious as somebody who is not a fan of musicals, but I do like Ariana Grande a lot, and I think Cynthia, is it Erivo? Yeah, I think she is an immense talent, and I love her.
Yeah, I love
so
her. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited just about the casting of it. But yeah, the music's never really motivated me, and I've read 0 books by Gregory Maguire. So yeah, I know The Wizard of Oz.
He was like one of the first people to start the whole genre of taking someone else's franchise and rewriting it.
Yeah,
I think he did that before Wizard of Oz was public domain too. Like I think because I feel like Wizard of Oz just went public domain like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know because I want to say it was written in the 30s, so it might not even be yet. I thought, or no, it's under 100 years. I don't know, but yeah, like because he also did Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister. Like I work, oh my God, this is the perfect segue getting back into mall talk.
I was gonna do it.
Sorry.
I was gonna do it.
Go.
Anyway, all this talk about buying physical media takes me back to our mall segment because we both worked at the mall. Now, I worked fashion retail. You worked book retail.
I did. I was lucky.
When a bookstore only sold books.
Yeah, well, and magazines, which I did have feelings about.
What year was it?
Customers. I started working at a Walden Books when I was 16 years old. So it was 1999.
Yeah. I mean, maybe bookmarks and reading glasses, but they didn't have Funko dolls everywhere.
Oh,
they didn't have.
We didn't have a ton of bullshit. I had to sell preferred reader cards, which honestly, this is not me drinking the Kool-Aid. That was a good deal if you spent $50 a year on books.
I've heard this story so many times, but I love it's one of Rob's favorite talking points.
It was so frustrating how people were stupid
because you didn't. It was free, right?
No. So it was a $10 membership. It gave you 10% off everything.
$10 a year?
$10 for a year. And it gave you 10% off everything except for magazines, but you still earned points on magazines. You earned and so basically what it was once you spent, and your first purchase, you got double the points. So basically, and you got a point per dollar or whatever. And it was basically if you spent $50 in your first transaction, the membership card would be $5 discounted, and it would cost you $5 out of the 10
for a whole year.
Also, from that single transaction, you would get $10 in reward certificates. I literally would tell people, if you spent $50 and just give me $5 extra right now, you will be getting $10 in the mail in 3 weeks, and you get 10% off every single time you come back in the store for 12 months. A year. And they were like, no. At one point, I was like, I will put $5 down and put my name on this because I would rather get the $10 that you are about to get for paying $5. I will happily do that. And of course, I wasn't allowed to do that. But it was just people don't listen.
It's so funny that even back then, people were conditioned to just say, no, thank you. Do you want to donate 5 cents to charity? No. Do you want to sign up for this? No. Do you want to do this? No. And even more so now that every single store on the planet and app and everything is do you want to join our membership program? We've kind of ingrained just saying no to things without even thinking it through.
Yeah.
But we did, when we first moved up to Seattle, we lived in Kirkland above a Barnes & Noble. So we actually joined the Barnes & Noble program, which also cost money, didn't it?
Yeah, it was $10 a year or whatever. It wasn't that much, but we were there a lot.
But we made that money back with discounts because we were going to Barnes & Noble once a week.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, also I worked at a GameStop years later, not in a mall. But they trained you to be sell a pre-sale, sell add-on product, sell an extra used item, ask if they want a warranty. And it was just I learned immediately from my time at Walden Books. Once you get the first no is actually the hardest to get.
That's a psychological, studied thing.
Every other no is super easy. Literally after you get a no once, the second question could be do you want $100? Be nah.
Yeah.
It's just they're not listening anymore. They're done.
It's so easy to just keep saying no.
Totally. And so, anyway, I worked at a Walden Books. I was very lucky as a 16-year-old, especially I grew up in the high desert, an hour north of LA. And most people in their teens, it's hard to actually work. It was hard to work in my hometown at the time, just because if you were 16, you had to be a pretty girl. And you were able to get a job as a hostess at a
usually
restaurant.
In restaurants,
or in fashion retail.
Yeah.
The bookstore I worked at was all older women working there for the most part.
I was going to say probably.
And I lucked out. They hired one of my friends for some reason when he was 16, and then he was able to put in a good word for me, and then I earned my spot there. So yeah, but like, and it's funny because I was next door to one of the places that you also worked in the mall. I mean, different states, of course.
Which one? I worked at several. Which one?
The Pretzel Time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which seriously, like my absolute favorite, because we were 2 doors down from a Pretzel Time, and I would just wander over there all the time.
Yeah, I miss Pretzel Time.
Yeah, it was always Pretzel Time for me.
Yeah, well, and also you worked at Walden, and then what was the other bookstore?
Okay, so like my favorite things is like being born in Vegas, I was actually used to like 2-story malls and like big experiences. We moved to Palmdale. That's where I lived in the Yellow Valley. When we moved there was no mall. And my sister and I were like, what is this place? Because we weren't used to a smaller city. And they finally built it, single story. We were like, ugh. But like our mall was fascinating because it was almost like if you divided it in half, you only needed half of the mall.
Yeah.
Because like one half had one set of stores, the other half had the other set of stores. And it was basically a mirror image of what those stores were offering on, like, let's say the west side of the east side of the mall, Walden Books. West side of the mall, B. Dalton Booksellers. West side of the mall, The Warehouse. East side of the mall, Sam Goody.
Yeah.
Like, it was one of those things where, like, there was
back
always...
in the day at Peak Mall, if you guys don't remember or if you're young, back in the day at Peak Mall, like turn of the century, the malls were packed and they had several stores that sold the same thing.
Yeah, you always had options. And it was almost like a political line of, like, well, where do you go?
Yeah.
Because if I was going to buy a book, even before I worked at Walden Books, if I was in the mall, if I was going to buy a book, Walden Books is where I went. B. Dalton was like in a pinch. However, strangely enough, I preferred Barnes & Noble to Borders, which Barnes & Noble is the B. Dalton parent company and Borders is the Walden Books parent company.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so it's funny because, like, yeah, when it came to like the giant stores, I got a discount at Borders, but I actually preferred Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. Most of the Barnes & Noble in the Midwest, like my first introduction to Barnes & Noble in the 90s were all freestanding. And then the Barnes & Noble in Cape Girardeau, where I went to college, is in a mall. And now I feel like a lot of them are kind of attached to malls or in like shopping centers. But I remember the first Barnes & Noble I went to in St. Louis was just like out in the middle of nowhere with my grandma. But yeah, malls would have like KB Toys and Toys R Us. They would have FYE and
So I never had
Columbia House.
We never had an FYE, but that would have been in competition, I think, with Sam Goody or the Warehouse
Sam
for
Goody,
us.
yeah.
Or Music Town. Some people had Music Town.
Music Town.
That's just, it always sounded like a generic one. And I think the main reason why I was familiar with Music Town, it was like, where like, I think some breakfast cereals were for like a $5 coupon at Music Town. And I was like, where is this? I don't understand where this store is, but sure.
We also had Babbage's or GameStop's.
We had GameStop, Babbage's, Software, etc.
Oh, what was the etc.? Hardware.
And Software, etc. actually ended up becoming, I think, a Babbage's or a Funko Land or a GameStop, and
okay.
It's like, 'cause like they all ended up kind of merging, I think, on that one.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's yeah, like and it's like malls were so, and we even talked a little bit how like last week about how like malls are so magic when you can't drive.
Yeah.
Like as a kid,
malls were the internet that you could go to.
Well, and seriously, I remember it's that thing of like, me and my friends would just get dropped off at the mall and we had nowhere else to be. And it's one of those things of like, well, yeah, we'd wander around, maybe get food, maybe buy a CD. We didn't have a ton of money, but like, and we often end up at a movie because like our mall had a great movie theater. And so, yeah, it's funny. It was like it was such a magical way to burn like 4 hours.
Yeah. Even like I didn't really get to experience actual malls because my mall growing up in my hometown was an outlet mall. It was called the Warrenton Outlet Center. So that's where I worked my very first job ever at the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory. And then I worked at GH Bass & Co., which is a shoe store. I worked at Pretzel Time. I worked at the Gap for a while, that my senior year. But we had an outlet mall. So yes, it was walkable, obviously, but it was all outdoor. So I couldn't go to like the big mall, which was like 30 minutes away until I could drive. But then once we started going to the big mall, we went to the mall all the time. You never bought anything. You just walked around. The only thing you ever got at the mall was food because the food court had restaurants you couldn't get outside of the mall. And then you would go to a movie. And there was one year, I want to say it was the summer between junior and senior year, my friends and I at the multiplex, which was like a 20-screen theater, we saw every movie. Like there was one weekend that was like, well, should we see American Pie again? Because we've already seen literally everything else that they're showing. There's nothing else to see.
Because it's funny, the same era for me. Because at the mall, so often before I could learn how to drive, I would always do that thing where you call home and be like, we're done, pick us up. And they'd be like, we're not taking the call.
We had a
but
baby,
we'll
it's
see
a
you.
boy.
Yeah, we're not taking the call, but we see you in 5.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. And I was like, so that happened a lot. No, it's like summer of 99, different, like not a mall thing, but it's my summer of 99. I was 16. I didn't have my own car yet. And I hung out with 2 friends from high school that year that were both older than me, both had cars, both named Ryan. It
was the 90s.
Yeah, me and the Ryans all summer, basically. And it was crazy because like that summer, me and one of the Ryans did a fitness swimming course on Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays at the community college. And the other Ryan, actually both Ryans and I, did a community college bowling course on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which is just an excuse to bowl like 2 games.
I was going to say, like, what do you learn in a bowling course? Like the history of bowling?
No, the test was you had to be able to score yourself. So I know how to score a bowling game, which is easy.
I actually don't because it's all machines now.
It's super easy. Basically, if you get a spare, it's 10 plus the next throw. If you get a strike, it's 10 plus the next 2 throws.
There you go.
That's easy.
I'll never remember that, but great.
Well, you're never going to go bowling not with me.
Right? I feel like, that's not going to happen because you are the bowler in the family.
Yeah, I have
especially
my own shoes, my own ball. Like
back in LA pre-pandemic, you were on gay bowling leagues.
Yeah, it was best excuse to drink and throw things. But like, so one of the Ryans, though, during that time worked at our local movie theater, which was a 22-screen multiplex, and he got 3 free tickets a day. Like 1 for him and for 2 friends. And so every day, basically, we went and saw a different movie at the movie theater. And then as soon as we were done, like, we do like our college course of either swimming or bowling, go to the movie theater, watch a movie, and then we'd hit Blockbuster on the way home and rent like 2 or 3 horror films. And every single night for basically the entire summer, me and the Ryans all fell asleep like on the couches or on the floor of the living room in my house. And like we did that for an entire summer.
Yeah.
So I think, and I looked at my Blockbuster because I worked at Blockbuster the following year, and I was able to actually pull up the history of my account, and I had like a crazy amount of, I think we might have rented like literally like, I don't know, 130 movies in that one summer. Like we watched everything from the horror section basically.
Yeah.
And
which I feel like horror was one of the first genres to go direct to DVD and VHS.
Oh, yeah. Well, seriously,
that was the first industry to be like, you can only get Tromeo and Juliet on VHS.
Seriously, I do feel like horror in a video store really did the discoverability was just crazy, but also you got to see so many crazy just knockoffs. There was something I saw recently that I looked at it and I was like, that's not Dr. Giggles, but it was basically another movie about a evil surgeon who laughs, and I was like, this is Dr. Giggles,
and now it's a genre,
right?
Yeah. But yeah, it's funny. Like we were talking. I think it was last episode about how like the malls on the West Coast are alive and well and back. Like every mall I've been to in California and Washington is just busy all the time. Almost no empty stores, very popular stores, very crowded all the time. But all the malls in Missouri where I'm from are just dead. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why malls are dying in the Midwest.
They're so
At least,
sad.
I mean, I haven't been in a couple of years, but usually when I go home, like the outlet mall that I grew up with and worked at in high school was completely full. Like I want to say it was like 50 stores, and there was an outlet for everything. Now it is literally a ghost town of just like Bible shops. I think there's like a wine outlet store where like all the wine is probably vinegar at this point. Almost every store is empty, but like we had like high quality shops. I mean, I worked at the Gap. There was like a giant Liz Claiborne for, you know, the ladies, the older gals. There was a Mikasa crystal store, a giant Nike store, but yeah, it's all gone. And then the actual malls too, both malls that I went to growing up, actually there's like 3 malls around St. Louis that I went to a lot growing up, and they're all just kind of dead. Like it's literally all just like weird mom and pop souvenir shops and Bible stores and Christian stores, and otherwise they're all empty. There's no food. Like all the food courts are gone. There's one mall by my brother's house in Chesterfield that like is really only open because it has a Cheesecake Factory and a movie theater, but like all the other stores are just gone.
That is one of the weirdest malls, and it bums me out because every time I go there, I want it to succeed so badly.
It should. It's a giant, beautiful mall. And
yeah.
I went to that one with my grandma growing up. That was my grandma's mall. And I saw Hocus Pocus there in the theater with my grandma. It's a very special mall in my memory, but yeah. And it's one of those malls that's surrounded by brick and mortar restaurants. So there was like an Applebee's, an Outback, like oh god, there was a Mexican restaurant.
El Torito?
No, I remember it had fried ice cream, and it was always in the commercial. Anyway, they had all these like brick and mortar freestanding restaurants around it. They're all like closed and abandoned, and yeah, it's just so sad when you go there. And it's also like it's a good neighborhood. It's not like it's like in a sketchy part of town or like a unpopulated part of town. No, it's like a really populated suburb of St. Louis, and the mall is just dead. It's so weird.
Well, it's like I can't speak for how the mall where I grew up is doing because I haven't been there in a minute. But it's funny because even like I remember when I was there, like in its heyday, we had strange anchor stores. I know, like you mentioned, like a Nike store, all this stuff. It's like individual brand stores we did not have. Like that. Like,
well, that was like an outlet thing.
Yeah,
too.
like and even then, I feel like now it's seeing a Nike store or a Lululemon store. It's much more of a. I think it's more of a current thing.
Yeah.
But because we had like Wet Seal. Just like one of those aggregating kind of
PacSun.
brands. Yeah, that just gets all sorts of shit. But it's funny. Our anchor stores were always really kind of strange. Like we had one called Gottschalk's. Never heard of that until it happened.
I've never heard of it.
Harris.
Nope.
Never heard of that. But we did have a JCPenney. We had a Mervyn's and a Sears. And of course, Sears closed. Mervyn's closed. They all kind of went away. And then after I moved out of the Antelope Valley, a Dillard's showed up, which it's funny because like being born in Vegas, I actually was familiar with Dillard's, but in Palmdale, everyone was like, Dillard's, the hell is that? Like,
that's
it's
what
just,
we had in St. Louis.
Yeah, it's just funny. I guess it wasn't really like a West Coast brand.
I think they're from St. Louis.
I believe they are because I went to college with the granddaughter of the man who started Dillard's.
Yeah.
I won't say her name just because I think that would probably be kind of weird.
Mrs. Dillard.
Right? Her last name was Dillard, and she was super funny and very nice. But like, yeah, blew my mind when that happened. But like, I want to say like a lot of people didn't know who she was in L.A. But fun fact, I found out when Dillard's opened, it was a 2-story store attached to that mall, and it's the only one. So it had, and it might have changed now, but when it opened, it was the first escalator in the entire city of Palmdale. And we're talking this like 2006.
I love like
this is
local facts like that.
This is this millennia it happened.
I mean, my hometown of Warrenton had a full-blown parade when McDonald's opened, and like floats and everything for the day McDonald's opened in like 1988. So I get it. Speaking of McDonald's, we need to move on to what's your order. This episode's going to be our longest episode yet.
I'm so sorry. I love talking about stuff
honestly,
with you.
This could just be a mall podcast. Like we could just talk about shopping in malls forever.
Well, and one very last little quick tangent on the subject of shopping. For all of those that went out and braved Record Store Day yesterday, my hat is off to you in a figurative sense. I'm not taking my hat off. But seriously, I hope you had fun. I hope you got everything that you wanted. And seriously, keep that physical media stuff alive. I'm glad to see people out there camping overnight. It's not for me anymore. That is a young man's game, or it's a young person's game.
It's a young person's game, and it's a different beast now. The Record Store days of yore are gone. It's now just a very, I don't want to say aggressive because there's a lot of friendship and camaraderie, and people are very kind to each other.
There really is.
And back in our day, our Record Store days, you'd get 3 hours, maybe 4 hours before the store opened. Now I saw TikToks, people are camping out 24, 30 hours before the store opens.
Yeah, there were some people outside of a local store here in Seattle that showed up as the store was closing the night before. And I'm like, nope. I've done one all-nighter outside of
I think
Amoeba.
your earliest was midnight, right?
I think I showed up one time at 11 or 11:30. But yeah,
but still, pretty much midnight.
Basically, I've done one night, and I think I was like 38th in line still. But Amoeba is also nuts. So, But yeah, now I'm going to be that person that pays the obnoxious markups online from flippers, and I hate all of you doing that. But
honestly, it's not that bad.
I know. Well, it's at least also this year from Record Store Day, there was like one item that I had to have. So. Not that bad.
All right. Well, you know what?
All right, let's get into it.
Let's do a real fast what's your order. Like I said, the restaurants in the box now are more fast casual, and I think there's one fast food restaurant left. So there might be restaurants in here that you've never eaten at or ordered at, and you might not have a regular order.
I can't wait to hear to figure out what I would order at Qdoba.
But yeah, welcome to What's Your Order? What's Your Order? I have our trusty Rip and Dip blue shoebox filled with America's favorite restaurants. And now Rob will pick one and tell us what our order is. And today's restaurant is...
The Olive Garden.
Olive Garden. Oh my God, we're gonna be family.
Right? When you're there, you're family, apparently.
Yay. We are Olive Garden heads. We love Olive Garden.
Seriously, like, it's the same thing of, like, if you told me we're getting Italian food and took me to the Olive Garden, I might be a little miffed, except I like the Olive Garden.
Yeah.
But I do recognize that it's a different animal.
Like we said about emos, they call it pizza. It's not technically pizza, but it is technically pizza, but it's not the pizza you're used to.
Yeah,
but we call it pizza.
It's an Italian restaurant with not a whole lot of garlic going on.
When you say let's go get Italian, you don't assume in your head we're going to Olive Garden. You say Olive Garden for specifically going to Olive Garden,
which is it is wonderful if that's what you're looking for.
But we love Olive Garden.
I like it.
Come on, it's got everything you want.
They do.
And mainly because Rob's favorite food is carb.
Yeah.
And so you get free bread. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we love Cheesecake Factory so much. If you give us free, delicious bread, we're going to go.
We will be getting probably 2 to 3 baskets, or we'll probably eat 2 baskets, and I will get that 3rd basket.
And every
I'm taking it
server,
home.
we're always so fun with the servers, so they always hook us up with, like, do you want a bag of breadsticks to go?
Do you want an extra handful of Cheddar Bay biscuits?
Oh, Red Lobster. I think Red Lobster's in the box, so we'll talk about her later. But yeah, so
Olive Garden.
Olive Garden, I don't really have like a specific order. I usually get the chicken piccata mainly. I'd say that's my number 1 order. But I've also been known to do a tour of Italy, where you get a couple dishes, or like randomly we'll go and it's shrimp season and they'll have like a delicious shrimp Alfredo or something, and I'll get that. But I'd say for the most part, my Olive Garden order is the chicken piccata, and then the unlimited salad and breadsticks. Sometimes I'll also add a soup if I'm nasty.
Crazy.
But you have a very specific eating
do.
and ordering style.
I do.
At Olive Garden. Oh, also, I always usually get a glass of wine or 4. But then they also have Coke Zero, which is our drink of choice.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, they are one of those restaurants that has Coke Zero, which, hey, the best.
Back in the day when I was a kid, I always got the Italian sodas where they had half and half. Oh, come on. I know it's very Mormon now, but back in the day, you get an Italian soda, that creamy deliciousness. Honestly, I might try making one with a Coke Zero today because I love them. But your Olive Garden order is?
So, for entree wise, I often am also a tour of Italy kind of guy, although I recognize it's a lot of food. So basically the way I order is I get my Coke Zero. I have to get an entree so I can get the Zuppa Toscana soup. My goal when I'm there is probably to fill up on that soup. Yeah. It is so good, and I will get 2 to 3 bowls.
You never have the salad.
No. I mean, it's fine, but like that soup is so good, and it's the potato spinach one.
Kale.
Or I meant sausage. It was the word I was looking for, actually. And it has like a kale in it. And it's funny because I make that soup at home all the time.
Well, that was one of our pandemic hacks.
Yeah,
We're like, you know what? We need to learn how to make Zuppa Toscana. And the first time I want to say it cost $100 to make a pot of the soup, but now we've gotten it down to a science.
Yeah,
and
it's so good.
Rob will make a double batch and we'll freeze it and we'll have, and it's better than the Olive Garden.
I love it so much.
Like we rarely say that about something, but Rob's homemade version of Zuppa Toscana is better than the Olive Garden version.
Well, I've done it so many times, I've dressed it up quite a bit. But yeah, so I fill up on Zuppa Toscana basically, and even though I'll ask for another bowl, kind of just dig it a little bit so I can get leftovers. And then entree-wise, often I'll pick at something and then I basically shape my entree so I can take it home.
Which his mom does too, so it's almost like, I don't want to say it's genetic, but it's like clearly how he was raised, because they will both, especially when we go to sit-down restaurants that have like an appetizer, salad, course, free bread kind of thing, they will do all the fresh stuff at the restaurant, and then they will take usually the protein and the main dish, the pasta dish, to go. And I mean, Rob does it when we get takeout. Like we order from a pizza place here, and he's like, well, I'll get a whole pizza and I'll eat that throughout the week, but then I'll also get a salad to eat tonight.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's one of those where I hate to say it, I think it's one of those things of kind of growing up a little bit more poor, or growing up, where just struggle, like you take advantage of the free shit when it's available. And then,
yeah.
But I also did realize very quickly, because like I love Alfredo sauce, and I used to get anything that was Alfredo at the Olive Garden. But I realized the Alfredo sauce breaks down to butter when you reheat it in the microwave. And so it's one of those where it's like, okay, cool, I'll get a tour of Italy. But yeah, I will eat the fettuccine Alfredo on site with my soup. And then the chicken parm and the lasagna, they reheat amazingly.
Yeah.
And so like those are my like lunch and dinner, like for tomorrow. It's very much like I often will see the Olive Garden as like it's a couple of meals, and I kind of plan it out. But like,
well, it's funny you should say that about the butter, because my favorite Italian restaurant fun fact, because I worked at a true Italian restaurant in college, my favorite Italian restaurant fun fact, and you can like look this up. If you go to an Italian restaurant and you order like a full pasta dish, or even like, I don't know, chicken piccata with a pasta, you are eating the equivalent of an entire stick of butter every time you go. So like if you get chicken Alfredo, there's a whole stick of butter in there. Like, especially if you eat it with the breadsticks, because those are like drenched in butter. You are, every time you go to a sit down Italian restaurant and eating a meal, you're eating at least one stick of butter. And I just love that.
Well, and say on my phone, I'm not quite my mother when it comes to the amount of open tabs that I have on my web browser. I have, I think, 13, and they all have a purpose. One of them is literally open to, because I found out that the breadsticks at the Olive Garden, apparently they're not made fresh there, but they are literally a brand name called Franz or Franz, Franz. And it is like they do big plastic bags of like ready-made breadsticks, and basically it's those, I think, and they're brushed with butter and garlic salt. I think that's basically what it is.
Yeah.
And so like I literally have like that window open on my phone to be like, note to self: get bag of these at restaurant supply store.
Next pandemic, we're getting the 100 count of the Olive Garden breadsticks.
We're gonna be those people that suddenly ended up with like, you know, a crate of hash browns that you see on TikTok. They're like, I thought I was getting 12, and I got 12 times 12, hash browns.
Well, and I think like many of you out there, like the pandemic really opened up a lot of our duping stuff at home. Like one of our first recipes was making pretzel time Auntie Anne's pretzels in the home.
Yeah.
And yeah, we hacked a lot of recipes in the pandemic, and now it's kind of become our regular thing.
Also, what was it? Maggiano's, on their website, they literally have their full recipe and preparation for my favorite dish there, their rigatoni D.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like we made that. That was an expensive, time-consuming process, and we learned that we used the wrong wine after the whole process.
Yeah, we're like, why isn't it not? It's usually like sweet. We
it
use the
doesn't
dry
taste the
version.
same. But yeah, it's funny. Like the dupes were living.
Yeah,
during
still
the
not our
pandemic.
most expensive at-home trial to date, which was Ina Garden's lobster mac and cheese. That was our most expensive making at-home recipe we've ever done, and then it didn't even turn out that good.
Also, I made that Israeli couscous from Lemonade, and just because I needed a quarter of a teaspoon of truffle oil just to make the first batch of that.
Which we still have that bottle.
Oh yeah, it was ungodly expensive for my first batch of that. That's one of those where you realize.
Honestly, I think that might be a 10-year-old bottle of truffle oil. It might not be good anymore.
That's where you learn that like spending the $3 for the side at Lemonade is actually cheaper than making your own.
Yeah, that was the thing too. Duping at home, we learned just go buy the real thing. It's way cheaper.
Unless you are making it at scale, and there are a lot of people who are going to eat this afterwards. Otherwise,
unless you want to keep an entire cabinet in your house of dry ingredients to make this one recipe, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Just buy it. Buy it. But all right, well, that was fun.
Yeah.
I love talking about malls. Honestly, we might do mall part 3 next week. I feel like we could talk about shopping forever.
Well, I'm so glad that we got the Olive Garden actually, because you mentioned those brick and mortar restaurants kind of near the mall. Like our Olive Garden in Palmdale was part of Restaurant Row, which was a bunch of those restaurants.
Fast casual.
Outback, Red Lobster,
Applebee's.
Olive Garden. Applebee's was across the street.
Texas Roadhouse, probably.
Yeah, well, for some reason they installed an Arby's near there also, but yeah, it's like we had all
delicious.
of our sit down fast cat or kind of semi fancies.
Yeah. Oh, I love talking about shopping in malls and restaurants.
There's something so nice about it, and like when we did talk also briefly about just how it's one of those things of like, when you can really appreciate malls, you don't have money to buy stuff. And now that we actually have money to buy stuff, I don't want to spend all day in a mall.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things of like, just, grass is always greener, I suppose.
Yeah. But, well, everybody, thanks for listening. If you made it through the whole episode of us talking about malls and restaurants, and thanks for coming in every week to listen. And we'll see you on the next one. But from Rob and myself, we love ya. Goodbye.